Look.
First of all, I'm extremely worried about my mom. This year has been a turbulent one for the family.
My parents left on a business trip to LA, so I had to stay home. My dad gave me his card so that I could order whatever I needed, so I kinda enjoyed being alone. And I wasn't scared because I've been home alone so many times, and besides, it was only for 3 days. Well, this was around the time the clowns were breaking into houses and doing some weird stuff. But they never came to my area since they usually hit more quiet places, especially the area near a forest. Although we had a fence that could easily allow someone to climb over, we didn't really think much about it because the area where we lived in was very safe. Anyway, it was around 6 p.m. and this was in the winter, so it got dark pretty fast. We had a glass room at the back of the house, also known as a conservatory, and it leads straight to the garden. The room was right next to the kitchen. I got a little hungry, so I went to the fridge, took out some snacks, and went back to the living room to continue watching TV. There was a roof on the glass room that intensified any sound that landed on top of it, even the gentlest drop of water. That day, it was raining heavily, so it was too noisy to hear anything except the rainfalls pounding on the roof. About a few minutes later, I was quite sleepy, so I decided to go up to my room and lay down. I was about to grab my phone and check my social media, but then I heard something drop really hard on something downstairs. It really creeped me out. I got really scared, but decided to go downstairs to check, thinking that it would be nothing. So I came out of my room, went halfway down the staircase, and looked down the hallway. The whole area was dark, but I knew that someone was standing there. I saw the back of a silhouette. I quickly went to my room, trying not to make any noise. Then I heard someone walking around the living room. I immediately called the police and whispered to the operator that I needed help.
Estelle weird.
But all of a sudden, I had a
Like
sneezing
the good one for me to measure myself?
I was so panicked at that moment.
I don't know.
So I instantly ran to the bathroom since it was the only room with a lock. As I was reaching the bathroom, he sprinted up the stairs so fast. I locked the door and tried not to cry. The man tried to open the door. He kept turning the doorknob. The bathroom had a small, blurry window, but I was able to see outside. So, just then, I got a glimpse of what was at the door. It was a clown, with green hair and without a nose. He was wearing a very weird outfit and was holding a gigantic knife. I had no other choice, so I quickly hopped inside the bath, opened the big window, and jumped out. I slid off the big roof and fell on the concrete. I couldn't even feel my injury because I was so scared. As I was about to hop on the fence, I heard the cops. They entered our house, and after that, they arrested and cuffed him. When he walked past me, I was so scared and my body was shivering. But I was glad that it was over. The police contacted my parents, so they came back home in a hurry. I would see them again, and I knew that I was safe now. From then on, I never stayed at home alone, and that clown guy was in prison for several years for scaring kids and for possible murder.
Her voice is so pretty. That is the best factory out there.
This happened a couple of years ago. One night, my mom decided to hang out with her friends at a and my dad was at work. So my two older sisters and I were home by ourselves. My sisters were 14 and 15 at the time, and I was 8. After my mom left, it was pretty exciting to be home by ourselves. But an hour later, it got boring. So we decided to play a game. We ended up playing hide and seek. At that point, I was a bit scared because it was 11 p.m., almost midnight. But then I kind of brushed it off since I thought my dad would come home soon. I didn't want to admit that I was scared. Also, I didn't want to be home alone. So I decided, let's just play hide and seek in the backyard, I suggested, but she refused. There are no hiding spots back there. Let's go to the forest, my sister said. After my sister said that, shivers went down my spine. But anyway, we stepped into the forest that's nearby. Go count, my second older sister said to me. I decided.
You want to fight me, Mom? You can fight me.
My other sister gave me a blindfold. What is this for? I asked. Put it on and try to find us, my sister said. While my sisters used flashlights to find a place to hide, I put the blindfold on and then counted to 30. When it was time, I said, "Ready or not, here I come." After walking around, touching every tree I walked by, 10 minutes had already passed, and I still hadn't found my sisters. Even while I was walking on this trail, I could barely see anything, so I tripped on a twig and fell. My clothes got dirty and my knees started bleeding, but I had no choice. I got up and walked around some more. I came across a tree and knew I finally found something. It felt like a person. "Haha, found you," I said. I then heard my sisters walking by behind me, saying, "Hey, how did you not find us yet?" At that moment, I froze. I took off my blindfold slowly and saw an old man sitting there, smiling at me while holding a knife. "Can't I play with y'all?" he asked, with a cracking voice. He wore a dirty shirt, and his hair seemed like he didn't shower for a long time. My sisters and I screamed and started running out of the forest as quickly as we could. While running, I looked back and noticed the man chasing after us while holding the knife, swinging it in the air. He was laughing like a mad person. I've never felt that kind of fear before. But after running for a while, the old man couldn't keep up. He stopped running, stared at us, and then he turned around and went back into the forest. We got closer to our house, and then we saw our dad pulling into the driveway. We ran to him and told him what just happened. He was shocked, so he called the police immediately. The police went to the forest, and they searched those areas for a few hours. After a while, they found and arrested the old man. The next day, we learned that the old man killed 4 female children and dumped their bodies in the woods. All the local news stations were covering the incident. When I heard that, I felt sick to my stomach. I am glad that we are safe, but now I pray for the 4 souls of the children. May they rest in peace.
Huh?
And there we are. So we got the fake skin, as you can see.
Oh no, I ain't got my phone, my bad.
I don't know what to do. It all started 3 weeks ago. My mom disappeared. She was at home in the morning, nothing different. She hugged me, saying goodbye, wished me luck with school, and gave me a packed lunch. And when I got home that evening, she wasn't there. She didn't come back. So we called the police, and all of the search was set up. The whole town came together and held a giant search party, lasting through the night, but there was no sign of her at all. She had just completely vanished. The weeks since were hell for both me and my dad. Rumors started spreading through town, and particularly around the school, that my mom had been murdered. Dad took things a lot worse than I did. He was a carpenter, so it wasn't unusual behavior for him to disappear into the garage for a long time to work on a chair or table or something. Especially it was what he always did when he was stressed. I figured that's just how he was dealing with the grief. We barely spoke over the next couple weeks.
You know I'm get my stuff together. I told you this connection is bad for the last couple days to a week. You want me still saying get my stuff together.
Good night.
My stuff is together. It's inside of somebody's car.
It was a bit weird, but I understood that he was going through a lot. But the longer he spent in there, the less I was sure he was doing woodwork. There were large bottles of bleach popping up in our bins, and Dad barely took any break. One night, I had waited for him to go to sleep, and I crept down to try to open the door. But it was locked tight, and Dad always had the key. But today, when I came home from school, he was in the kitchen, freshly shaved, showered, had a rested face. He was totally different from what he'd been for the last couple of weeks. He was cooking. My dad used to love grilling, and his steaks were always amazingly delicious. So it was a nice change, since I fed myself only pot noodles and soup for a few weeks. He sat down to the biggest, bloodiest steaks I've ever seen in my life. But it looked kind of different.
My name is Brianna Robertson. I'm 19. I'm homeless.
Dad tucked into a steak straight away, and I did too. It was a bit tough to chew, but the seasoning and flavors tasted just as good as the rest of the steaks were. We had finished pretty soon, and I was feeling full and satisfied. Then Dad said something I can't stop thinking about.
Rayvon retarded because he swears somebody can hear him. Or behind that dumb behind music.
His voice didn't sound sad or
He's
depressed.
dumb behind.
I didn't say anything, just stared at him. Hearing what he said sent shivers down my spine. Then I thought of the steaks. The late nights in the garage, hundreds of bleach bottles, and my dad's weird behavior.
Mommy said it sounded like you was listening to the same music all day.
Body? Or am I just overthinking it? What do I do?
He said, sound like that.
When I was 16, my parents, brother, and I were living in an apartment on the 4th floor. Every night, we heard crazy laughing outside of our house. At first, we just thought it could have been a neighbor taking care of a sick person, so we didn't worry about it.
The music no mind.
Then one night, I heard laughing again.
It's not that
it was 11 p.m., and everyone in my house was sleeping. I got out of bed and looked out the window, and I saw nothing. And as soon as I looked out the window, the laughing stopped.
You're not really paying attention. You want to
was
keep playing
kind of
the
weird,
games.
but anyway, I just went back into bed and slept.
Alright, now
After
next time,
that, I had to use the
next
bathroom
time
at 4:30 a.m. The bathroom was downstairs in the hall, and the bathroom window was facing a big field of grass and a parking lot. After I finished using the bathroom and washed my hands, I heard that crazy loud laugh again for about a whole 30 seconds. It sounded like this person didn't even get tired.
No, that's my problem, because I play too much. What?
Long laughing. I proceeded to look out the window again, and then I saw a group of about 5 dogs going crazy around something. And when the dogs moved, I absolutely felt fear. There was something, another dog. I think it was a dog. It had a dog body and paws, but not a dog face. It had a human face, and it was staring
I'm about to be a dog.
It looked at me for a minute and then started to slowly smile.
Still hanging with somebody that's 12 years old, right, y'all?
And that was the same voice that I've heard constantly. I ran to my room, but I couldn't go back to sleep.
Still hanging with these little kids.
The next morning, I told my parents and brother what had happened. And they thought I had a nightmare.
I'm still hanging with these little
I said
kids.
that I swear it wasn't a nightmare. But they didn't believe me. They just laughed and ignored it.
I'm still hanging with these
Everything
little kids.
felt real. I know it was 100% real. But the next few days went by, and I didn't hear anything. And one day it was getting quite dark outside. I did end up getting a cold from swimming, so my parents and brother went out grocery shopping without me. It was 9 p.m., and I took my dog for a walk for a little while. There was an abandoned house down the block, and my dog took off running to a bush suddenly. It was like something caught his attention. I ran after my dog, and literally, I had to crawl under a fence to go and get him. When I finished crawling under the fence, I ended up cutting my knee. But thankfully, I got my dog, and when I looked up, there that thing was. That dog with a human face. We were face to face. It had glowing green eyes, and it had definitely human face features, and the head was bald. I screamed, and it just started that scary laughing again. I ran away with my dog and came back home. Well, I'm 18 now, and my family and I moved away to another place. I don't know what the heck that thing was, and why I've seen it twice. But I'm just glad that I don't see it anymore.
Huh? What is he talking about? Yeah, I'm about to be gone.